What is up, beautiful fish lovers, and welcome to Puff Daddy Reef. I hope you are ready for the Christmas season, and also happy Hanukkah. That is definitely going on right now. Today we're going to be talking about what to do when you get your nice Christmas presents in, and by those I mean fish. So if you're picking up any of these at the store, this video is for you. Also, for viewers who have been following my channel, you might be like, what is going on with this Innovative Marine Encore aquarium? Doesn't look like much has been happening, but there's stuff happening. You can see there's a bunch of PVC pipe in there. That's because I'm doing something extra special in that one, and it's taken a lot of troubleshooting to do. Leave me a comment below if you can guess what I'm trying to do in that. It's all messed up now, so you probably can't guess. And this one, there was a shortage of pea puffers, and I wanted to put pea puffers in it, so I'm not being able to stock this one yet, but it looks awesome. So here's my freshwater side, and a couple of things that I've learned now is these little balls here, they don't stay put at all. They float and roll around. I've also found out that they're magnetic, so I can take a magnet and clean them up pretty quickly, but what I'm gonna have to do is pile the sand higher. The other thing that's happening is my grass, it's taken a long time to come in, but this moss in the back is absolutely insane, growing super quick, so I'm gonna trim that back, because those are supposed to look like little trees in the mountains in the background, like little fern trees, little Christmas trees, and now they're absolutely taking over the tank. Of course, the Anubias nana, that's not growing too fast. And yes, new fish, so that means you're gonna need to quarantine, and I prefer to prophylactically treat my fish when I quarantine. What that means is you dump some medication in. There's a couple ways to do it. You can do the more, I guess, less rough on the fish method of observing them. That'd probably be recommended to do that about a month in a tank that is set up and in a place where you can see if they have any disease. And then if you see some disease, you can go ahead and treat them, but I prophylactically treat them. So I'm gonna show you how you can get a really quick, cheap quarantine setup. So the first thing you need to do is pick a spot, make sure that it's near power and it's a place where you're around a lot. So here's the studio, there's the spot, we've got our power, and this is right next to where we're always gonna be, and that's exactly what you want. Don't put your quarantine tank in a basement unless your significant other says you have to, because you wanna be able to watch the fish, observe them as much as you can, and make sure they're healthy. Next, you're gonna need a stand. Just like that, we got our stand. This is the easiest stand in the world to make. It's just a 2x12, cut into 3 sections and screwed together. Put some wood glue between the edges and 3 screws straight down the center, and you won't believe how strong this is. I also added some stain that I had around just to protect the wood a little. So what kind of tank do you want for your quarantine tank? You have 20-gallon highs, you got 10 gallons, you got 29 gallons, but the really best one that you can get for a quarantine tank, at least for most fish, is the 29 long. Lots of room for the fish to swim. And if you get it during a $1 per gallon sale, the tank only costs 20 bucks. Next up, if you're gonna be quarantining bigger saltwater fish, I'd go with a 40 breeder. So here's the 40 breeder you can use for quarantining those much larger fish. I try not to go too large with the quarantine tank because you're gonna have to be changing a lot of the water, and the more water you have also, if you're using medication, the more medication you're gonna have to use. Time for the tank. Just like I showed you, this is our 20-gallon long, and this is going to be perfect for fish like anthias, clownfish, tomato clownfish, small tangs, whatever. 20-gallon long, that's your tank. You can see this one's a little dirty because I didn't get this one brand new from the pet store. Next, you'll need a power strip. This is all you're going to need to plug in all of your stuff. You're going to need an air bubbler, a pump for circulation, and a heater, and also maybe a light. Here's what I use for my light. This is just the cheapest shop light you can find, and you can use any incandescent bulb and put it on a timer. What I have here is a Hue bulb because my house is whatever, smart home with Hue things. You can get one of those for like $15 for kind of the cheapest version, and those you'll be able to do sunrise and sunset, which is good for the fish. You don't need a fancy reef light for a quarantine tank. It's just fish. First item in the power strip. I'm lucky I got this lip right here. I can just clip it on and we're good to go. Let's add some water to this tank. Mix up some salt water. I use a Brute trash can. All right, so we got the tank, we got the salt water. Next, we're gonna need a heater to keep those fish nice and warm. This is an Eheim heater. This is 50 watts, should do the job. All right, so once you get your heater in, you're gonna wanna get some sort of thermometer to basically calibrate it, because the numbers on the top of those dials generally aren't super accurate. And I'm generally shooting for 77 degrees for a quarantine tank. Basically, the colder the tank is, the fish have a slower metabolism, and so you need to feed them less, and it just keeps everything cleaner. So that's why I do like 77, even though I keep my reef tank around 78. So you might even be able to go to 76. It's up to you, depends on the species of the fish. Just check out what's recommended for each species and go on the lower end of that. Use a thermometer like this. I'll have a link in the description below where you can find one to calibrate your thermometer, your heater, and then you're set. But I won't stop there, because one thing you might have noticed is we're not using a controller on this tank. Because we're not using a controller, I have something that I like to add to all my tanks, and it's a permanent thermometer in the quarantine tank. So what I have here is one of these stick-on thermometers. They're like $2 at Petco, and they're great because we don't have a controller on the aquarium. Even though we've calibrated our heater to make sure it's giving us the right heat that we want, this gives us a quick and easy visual reference if something's off, if the heater's either broken and stuck on, or if it's off. So if you don't have the money for a controller and you want to do an affordable build like we're doing here, get one of these. I'll have a link below. These stick-on thermometers work well. For more accuracy, you can also get the floating ones that kind of look like a regular old mercury thermometer. And I think these ones are still alcohol, it's dyed red. But those will just kind of float in there. Those ones are fine too. But for me, I just want to look at it and know everything's either going good or to know if something's going wrong. And this will do the trick for only $2. And now we'll know the temperature of our water. Now there's one other badge-like thing I like to add to the tank, and it's this. This is the ammonia alert badge. I'll have a link to that. You definitely want this in your tank, because depending on how much you feed or a fish may die, you could see an ammonia spike in your aquarium, and then you need to know that you need to change that water really quick or make other actions to get the ammonia down. So definitely buy one of these right now. Just get it in a package with that, and then you can stick it in right here. And now your aquarium has its own little information loadout right here with both your temperature and your ammonia. It's great. And there you can see it, the temperature there and the ammonia alert there. You can see actually my ammonia alert is indicating a little bit of ammonia. That's because I just took it out from, I have this quarantine tank continually running, so there's a little tiny bit in there before. But over the course of a day or two, it'll go down back to safe with no fish in there. And these things actually last, I think they can last like 6 months or more. So it's a great investment, and it's not too much. I think they're definitely under $10. All right, so we got our lights, we got our heater, we got our temperature display and our ammonia display. Next thing we need to add to this tank is a little bit of flow. What I really like for quarantine tanks are these Hydor Corellia Nanos. They're super cheap. They're a light current. You don't want too much in a quarantine tank, but you definitely want flow, especially for the fish that love to swim in the current. This is perfect for me. I'll put it at one end and it'll basically blow the current all around the tank. So the last thing that I recommend in your tank for the life support system is an air bubbler. This is a Fusion Quiet Power Plus. There's also some great ones from Tetra. Put it in the tank and you can turn it on. This one you can adjust the bubble strength, but you definitely want some extra aeration when you're dosing chemicals like Prazopro. Prazopro is known to cause bacteria blooms. Bacteria will consume oxygen, and your fish need that oxygen. So having an air source into your quarantine tank, especially if you're going to be prophylactically treating them with meds, is a must. So I've got a regular bubble in there, but I'm also going to add this Imaginarium air stone to get some wide spread out bubbles and, I don't know, make it look good. All right, quick review of the Imaginarium air bubbler. You pay extra for the longer air bubble, and this one, the bubbles only go halfway, so I don't know what the point is of the rest of it. You tell me. All right, now we're gonna put a little bit of reef rock in here from my tank. This is just to get the bacteria kind of started in this tank. You can also use a bacteria additive that you can buy if that's what you prefer. And then you just let this thing run to cycle. Wait until this is up and running until you get fish, and that'll start it. Now, you don't want to put bunches of rocks in here for your decoration because one, it makes it impossible for you to catch fish, and two, some of those rocks will absorb the medications that you put in. So stick with plastic decorations. So plastic decorations like this work just fine. This one's from PetSmart, and it looks pretty realistic. And because it's plastic, it won't be absorbing tons of medications like another rock will. Give it 3 days minimum, and it's not going to be a full cycle. When you get your fish in here, there'll be kind of another cycle that goes on, and you just have to monitor your ammonia here, and if it goes up too high, I would say anything in this alarm area, that's 0.2 ppm, you're going to want to do a water change immediately. Now there's one more thing you can add to your aquarium. If you don't want to spend the money on buying a realistic looking rockwork, I think it looks nice, you know, these little plastic rock displays, because, you know, they make it look like a better display, and because I recommend not putting them in this basement, but someplace where you're going to watch it. You know, I kind of like this, but you can also make your own. So if you have some extra PVC lying around, you can make a structure like this, which I just made with the super glue gel and PVC, just gluing it together to create a structure that is going to provide the fish with shelter. They can go inside the pipes. Antheas love this pipe right here, and it just provides a place for them to hide. So let's put this in the tank just to give them a really nice place to hang out. And of course, the final thing is you will not want to forget your lid. I have a video where I'll show you how to make this lid. Check out that link. But this is a lid. It's just extra egg crate that I have lying around that I use for frag racks. And because I like to get small fish, it's got a little mesh here so the smaller fish can't jump through the cracks. Small fish like damsels and firefish will definitely jump through. And the cool thing about the egg crate is you can cut out little notches for all your wires. So this is a great way. Sure beats spending $20 on a glass top if you already have the stuff lying around. If you don't have the stuff lying around and you're buying all the parts from scratch, it'll probably cost you like 15 bucks, but you'll have a lot of egg crate left over. And there you go. There's our entire quarantine setup right by the desk so we can see everything. And the one thing that you're gonna have to remember to do is top off this tank, because I don't have an auto top off system. It's quarantined, so you should be watching your fish every single day and also topping off that tank. That's why I don't have a top off for this. It's part of my responsibility with feeding the fish also to top it off every day. And with this green mesh, you can just dump that water through. I just watch it. When it goes below this line, I top it off until it's right on the top. We'll come back in a few days and put some fish in it. Okay, so we're back and we have some fish that we are going to quarantine. So we're gonna get them in the tank and take off that lid. And it's the same process as always. You just want the fish to kind of acclimate to your tank. And, you know, do all the recommended things. Try not to get too much of that aquarium water from the pet store in there. If you are prophylactically treating, it's not the biggest deal if you get some of that pet store aquarium water in. So it's up to you deciding on how you want to acclimate. But now they're in, we're going to float them as normal. I'm going to turn this light away just so it's not so bright on this little guys. We got a bunch of Antheas, and we're doing my favorite type of acclimation. This is one of the easiest ones for me, especially for quarantine when you're not worried about, really, it's not the end of the world if any of the aquarium water from the store gets in your tank, because just a quarantine tank, you're going to be treating it anyway. You just basically roll down the bag so you create a little float, and you take your bag like this and you just dump some of the water out, and then you put it back in and you just paddle some water back in. And you just do that every 5 minutes. And it's a really easy way to acclimate your fish. I love it, they love it. Other than drip acclimation, I mean, drip acclimation you can leave for like 15, 20 minutes and then come back and check. But if you're gonna be watching the fish, this is a great way. All right, let's get these guys in the tank. So everyone's getting settled in the tank, and I forgot to mention the most important thing when setting up a quarantine tank is you need a piece of paper and a pen to take notes. Put the date that you put the fish in, and then any date that you put medications in. Another thing that I found out is, yes, you actually can do water changes when you have medications in there. You just have to be exceptionally precise when you do the water change, know exactly how much you're changing, exactly how much medication was in the tank, and put the same concentration in that new water. For example, the first thing that I'm going to treat my tank with is corpamine, and there's a standard concentration of about 32 drops per 10.5 gallons. And as long as I'm taking the water that's been treated out and putting water with the exact same ratio in, you have to be exact, it should be okay, and it's actually better for the fish, especially if this level is starting to show some ammonia. So don't be afraid to change your water. Just make sure you have your medications correct. And the best way to do that is have a piece of paper with everything logged. Now, a quick note on my prophylactic treatment. So I do treat my fish prophylactically. I think it's just the easiest way for me. I can get my fish in and out of quarantine in about 2 weeks. And the first thing that I use is corpamine. Corpamine is a 14-day treatment, so I use that in here. This is a special type of copper that is very easy on fish. I do it exactly as directed. That's 14 days. Now, Prazipro, that's a 7-day treatment. And so I do this at the end of the 14 days, especially if I picked up the fish at the store and I see they're already eating, then it's less likely that there's a parasite causing them to not be hungry. So this I will do after the first 7 days are through. Then I'll dose the Prazipro. And the Maricin 2, this is an antibiotic, and this is also compatible with these other medications. It covers just the rest of the spectrum of things, and in the past I've done this kind of as an optional thing. I think this definitely is something that you add on, especially if you see something on the fish that looks off. For these anthias, because of the number of weird bacterial types of infections they can get, I will be using this. This is a 5-day treatment, and so I'll be doing this at the end of the treatment. So that's after we've already done the first 9 days of the treatment. So basically we'll start with this, and then we'll start with that, and we'll start with that. And so all 3 of the medication will end at the same time. That's 14 days. We'll do the water change. We'll acclimate the fish to the new tank and get them in, and they'll be happy, clean, and healthy. Thanks for watching this episode of Puff Daddy Reef on how we set up a quarantine tank with some quick tips on how I medicate my fish. If you enjoyed it, please leave a comment below. If I did something wrong, let me know. Correct me on my quarantine procedures. Really, there's a million ways to do it. A lot of it is preference and based on your experiences over time. So please leave me all the hate mail you can think of or all the compliments in the comment section below. I'll try to respond to as much of it as I can. Thanks for watching this episode. I'll catch you next time.